Have you ever wondered how Delta Force pulls off missions straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster? How a tiny team can swoop in, dismantle an entire network, and capture a high-value target like Madura without the world ever knowing? And here's the kicker. What role did Donald Trump play in setting the stage for this insane operation? This mission didn't start with helicopters roaring or bullets flying. It started with chaos controlled by intelligence, timing, and psychology. Hundreds of variables. Every human factor has the potential for disaster. One wrong move, and it all blows sky high. But somehow, Delta Force navigated it. They hunted hesitation, fear, and overconfidence before the operation even began. They weren't just relying on tech or brute force. This was human chess on the edge of catastrophe. The precision, the anticipation, the invisible pressure. It was insane. And here's what's wild. Even with all that planning, no one could fully predict how Madura would react. Every move had to be flawless. One slip, and the mission would collapse in seconds. And that's just the beginning. Factor number one is the part most people will never see. It's so insane it alone could have decided success or total failure. Stick tight, because the 5 factors behind this mission's success will blow your mind. Here's where it gets insane. But not in the way you think. No gunfire, no chaos, just a prediction. Factor number 1 behind Madura's capture success wasn't gadgets or brute force. It was pure human analysis. Delta Force didn't chase perfection. They hunted patterns, hesitation, overconfidence, small cracks in human behavior that appear under pressure. Every gesture, every pause, every tiny signal could be the difference between success and disaster. Analysts mapped Madura's routines, his allies, even his micro-reactions. They anticipated fear before it appeared. They predicted hesitation before it slowed a critical decision. And they planned for overconfidence to turn into fatal mistakes. This was chess played on a battlefield, silent but deadly. Every civilian, every unknown variable, every environmental factor was considered. This was the mission before the mission. And here's the subtle edge. Trump's operational mindset, emphasizing speed and decentralized decision-making, gave Delta Force the ability to exploit intelligence faster than any bureaucracy could slow them down. This wasn't hype. This was calculated, cold, surgical. Delta Force's intelligence was alive, constantly updated, feeding operators just enough to stay ahead of Madura, ahead of chaos, ahead of disaster. And this is where most operations fail. Most teams see only tech and tactics. Delta Force saw minds. And mastering this layer alone set the mission on a knife edge of success. And here's the terrifying part. This was only the human layer. Factor number 2 is where technology and stealth take over. And once you hear it, you'll realize why modern warfare will never be the same again. Now, it gets even crazier. Factor number 2 behind Madura's capture? Tech is so advanced that most people don't even know it exists. But Delta Force didn't rely on gadgets alone. This was about blending stealth, innovation, and raw human skill into a system that made the impossible routine. Imagine navigating hostile territory where every shadow could be a threat. Next-gen drones fed real-time intel. Adaptive night vision made darkness irrelevant. Every move could be predicted before it even happened. Can you imagine pulling this off without anyone noticing, without a single mistake? Every calculation, every step had to be flawless. The mission wasn't static. Local variables, shifting security, unpredictable reactions from Madura's network. Delta Force adapted instantly. No hesitation, no second guessing. The tech didn't replace skill. It amplified it, giving operators an almost unfair edge over chaos. Trump's push for faster operational approvals gave Delta Force the freedom to deploy experimental systems at speed. This split-second advantage turned theoretical tech into real battlefield dominance. Operators could act before threats even materialized. That's why speed and decision-making mattered as much as night vision and drones. And here's the terrifying thought. One misstep could have exposed the team. One misread signal and everything collapses. Stealth was king. Every move had to be silent, invisible, precise. Factor number 3 isn't tech. It's the human mind, the deadliest battlefield of all. And once you see it, you'll realize even drones and night vision aren't enough to guarantee victory. Stick tight because the next layer of this mission is darker, deadlier, and almost impossible to imagine. Now we enter the darkest layer of this operation. Factor number 3 wasn't tech. It wasn't firepower. It was behavioral control. Delta Force didn't wait for Madura to make a mistake. They engineered the moment where a mistake felt inevitable. This wasn't chaos. This was designed. Subtle signals were introduced. Routines were nudged off balance. Trust was gently distorted. Nothing obvious, nothing dramatic. Just enough pressure to make people act exactly how Delta Force predicted they would. Here's a chilling way to understand it. Imagine an ally arriving late to a routine meeting. Not suspicious, just late enough to create doubt. Another associate stays longer than usual, convinced it's safer to wait. A false sense of calm spreads. No alarms, no panic. Just small human decisions stacking quietly on top of each other. And without realizing it, the environment reshapes itself. This is where the trap closes. This wasn't manipulation for theatrics, it was surgical, cold, calculated. Delta Force studied emotional triggers across Madura's network. Who hesitated under pressure, who overcorrected, who trusted too easily. They didn't need everyone to fail. They only needed one predictable reaction at the right time. This is the moment most operations collapse. Delta Force planned for it. Pause for a second. No explosions, no gunfire, just people behaving exactly as expected. That's the terrifying part. And this is where strategic permission made a difference. Trump-era operational doctrine emphasized speed, autonomy, and acting before hesitation could spread upward through bureaucracy. That gave teams like Delta Force the freedom to pull psychological levers without delay. No waiting, no second guessing. When behavior shifted, they moved. But make no mistake, if even one of these mental traps failed, operators wouldn't walk into a clean extraction. They'd walk into chaos. Confused loyalties, unpredictable reactions, a battlefield built on wrong assumptions. Which brings us to factor number 4. Because psychological dominance means nothing if execution slips by even a second. Timing, logistics, and precision are where missions like this live or die, and the margin for error is brutal. Stay with me, because this is where everything either comes together perfectly or falls apart violently. This is where everything gets real. Factor number 4 is the moment where planning stops mattering and execution takes over. Timing, logistics, seconds that decide whether operators walk away clean or don't walk away at all. Delta Force didn't just need the right plan, they needed the right window, and that window was brutally narrow. The margin wasn't hours, it wasn't even minutes, it was moments. A brief alignment where movement, silence, and positioning all overlapped. Miss it, and the environment resets against you. Security patterns shift, assumptions break, the target vanishes. This is why time is ruthless. Once the boots move, there is no pause button, no rewind, no fixing it later. Every movement had to land perfectly. Insertions aligned with terrain, communications timed to avoid detection, extraction routes held open just long enough to matter, and none of it existed alone. One delay cascades into another. One late signal forces a decision no one wants to make. This is where elite missions usually fail, not because the plan was flawed, but because time stopped cooperating. Here's the part most people underestimate. Logistics isn't boring in operations like this. It's lethal. Fuel windows, aircraft endurance, physical fatigue, even how long operators can stay perfectly focused under stress. Move too fast and mistakes creep in. Move too slow and the mission collapses. Delta Force lived inside that razor-thin space where speed and control are constantly fighting each other. This is where leadership isn't discussed. It's tested. When the moment arrived, there was no debate, no delay. The signal aligned and the order was simple. Move. That decisiveness turned preparation into action while the window was still open. Now picture the alternative. Confusion, crossed signals, no clean exit. That's how missions die. And yet, even with perfect timing, ruthless logistics, and flawless execution, this operation still needed one final element to succeed. Factor number 5 wasn't planned. It wasn't guaranteed. And without it, none of this would have mattered. Stay with me, because the final factor is the one no one ever talks about. And once you hear it, you'll see this entire mission differently. And here's the part no briefing can fully prepare for. Factor number 5 wasn't a system. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't timing. It was the human wildcard. The moment when reality breaks the plan and everything depends on a single decision made in silence. Delta Force doesn't just plan for precision, they train for the instant when precision fails. Something shifted, not loudly, not dramatically. A reaction came faster than predicted. A movement didn't match the model. For a split second, the plan stopped existing. This is the moment that kills operations. This is where hesitation gets people trapped, where confusion spreads faster than orders. That second mattered, not minutes, not time to debate. 1 second. An operator made a call with no confirmation, no clearance, and no guarantee that it was right. It wasn't heroic, it wasn't cinematic. It was quiet, controlled, and irreversible. That's the wild card. Not luck, but clarity under extreme uncertainty. The ability to act when there is no perfect answer, only consequences. Stay in that moment for a second. Because if that decision goes the other way, there is no clean capture. There is no smooth extraction. There is chaos, resistance, a fight no one planned for. That's how close this mission came to changing completely. And that's why Madura was captured. Not because everything went according to plan, but because when it didn't, Delta Force was ready. One decision closed the trap. After that, it was over. Now zoom out. 5 factors. Strip away any one of them. The psychology, the tech, the manipulation, the timing, or that final human choice. And this mission collapses. That's the unsettling truth. And the most disturbing part isn't that this happened once. It's that missions like this are happening right now. Quietly. Somewhere you'll never see. Somewhere no one will explain afterward. If you want to understand how modern warfare really works, not the loud version, but the real one, stay here. Subscribe, because the next story goes even deeper, and it doesn't get more comfortable from here.